like to introduce to you a band that you know and love. Come to you like the sound of equipment being thrown from a moving van, the sound of dead cell phones and oil rigs, the sound of empty parking lots, school buses. They love to live and live to love. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus Children of America, the White Stripes.
Hello, come on in. Water's great. My name is Ryan Schaap, and this is the hardest podcast to podcast. Coincidentally enough, I'm watching the hardest baseball game to watch in Seattle Mariners getting thumped by the Philadelphia Phillies early in the third inning here. So, a little insight to what I'm doing on a dreary, cloudy, late summer Monday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Got a unique song, a unique choice on the horizon in this episode. Who's to say? Cover of the Blanche, or is it Blanche song? Is it Blanche or Blanche? Who's to say? If you know, send me an email. hardestpod2pod@gmail.com, or slide into the DMs. Always love hearing from listeners with feedback, thoughts, and opinions. I'd like to thank Nathan and Jeff Fox last week for a great episode and a great conversation with our talk on aluminum off white blood cells. It's always a great sign when the shorter, more unique episodes garner the long conversations. And I appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed the show too. Got some nice comments about the conversation, and I'm curious how we all go back and listen to aluminum again while listening to white blood cells, which we should all be doing. They got the out. Perfect. Okay, well, the Mariners just got to try and get some runs here. Logan Gilbert getting thumped, sixth in the second inning. He's done. You know, that's their ace. So with baseball on the mind, we are mourning the loss in the championship game last night by my softball team, the Yard Sales, or Yardies for short, in a 7-inning slow-pitch beer league game. A 10-7 final score is pretty impressive. I peeled myself off the couch to record this, and here I am talking with you. Friends of the show, elegant listeners, lovely folks. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/hardestpod2pod. That's buymeacoffee.com/hardestpod2pod. Throw a few bucks in the old tip jar there. Maybe set up a monthly donation or a monthly pledge if you like the show and you want to let it be known. But every dollar that you contribute goes right back into supporting this show, goes right back into funding this show. If you hear me saying that and you start to think, I don't know if I got that kind of scratch line around. I don't know if I can be contributing to low rent podcasts, funding their habits in these tough economic times, that's totally fine. Here's how you help support the show. Go follow us on your social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. It's all Hardest Pod to Pod. Go to your streaming platform of choice, your podcast platform of choice, and hit follow. And go rate and review. 5 stars, positive review. And then finally, go tell 7 friends. And you don't have to bring 7 friends, but go tell 7 friends. Don't eat shellfish if you're allergic. And don't be selfish. Help support this show. I'm in the midst of moving right now. So all the records are not here anymore. All my White Stripes vinyl. All I have to cross-reference with is my complete lyrics book of the White Stripes, 97 to 2007. But we didn't need that today because it's a cover. So it's sitting on the shelf behind me. And we talk about this through the podcast. Is it a cover? Depending on the release date, it's hard to identify if it constitutes a cover or if it's a song from an old band that Jack was in. In reality, it is a cover, but it makes you wonder. If you are well-versed in Blanche or Blanche and the Detroit music scene in the early 2000s, send me an email, hardestpod2pod. Tell me what came first. I want to know if there was an official release of Who's to Say by Blanche or Blanche that came out before September 2003 when this B-side came out for I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself. I want to know. I want to know the order of things. I know this song goes back to Two-Star Tabernacle, as do a lot of White Stripes songs. But I want to know the chain of command here, the order of events. With that plea in the rear view, it's time for another plea. I want you to hit pause on this podcast because it is time for our call to action. It's time to get reacquainted with a great song. Who's to say? So we're going to hit pause. We're going to our streaming platforms of choice, and we're finding Who's to Say, the Blanche cover, which was the B-side on the I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself single. It's available on all the major ones. Hit pause. Go listen to that song. Get reacquainted with it, or get acquainted with it for the first time. I'll wait patiently. All right, welcome back. Great song. Quite enjoy it. It's a sneaky little one. And you might be asking, why am I being asked to listen to this on my streaming platform of choice and not on my record player? Or, dust off the CD single. Well, it's simple. In our effort to get this show noticed by the bigwigs and the fat cats over at Third Man Records and within the industry, we needed that little blip of the streaming data to go up. As our show grows, so will that blip. So when it comes time to notice how this podcast positively impacts their streams, there is a direct correlation between the two. So, you going and hitting pause on this show and listening to the song that we are discussing that week is another great way that you can support this show. And of course, another great way you can support this show is to listen to this show. And that's what we're going to do right now. It's time to discuss Who's to Say with my dear friend Kirk Hamilton. He is the founder of 3 a.m. Revelations, a great music blog that profiles and reviews music, Canadian music, good music in general. And as Kirk is seemingly at every indie show in Vancouver, they do a great job profiling all of the latest gigs in and around our beautiful city. So if you're from Vancouver and you go to a gig and you see a real tall blonde guy, that's Kirk, because he's at all of them. And he's here with us on the hardest podcast to podcast. Our guest this week is the founder of 3 a.m. Revelations, a blog covering music and live shows around Vancouver. He is Kirk Hamilton. Kirk, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure. You're a music man like myself, and
I am. I'm the reason I do the blog is because I'm not a music man. I tried to be a music man, and they took away my instrument.
Yeah,
that's how bad I was.
No, you're gonna need a keyboard for this, and not that kind of keyboard, pal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kirk, you cover a lot of acts, you cover a lot of music. The White Stripes are a two-piece band. What makes a good duo, a good two-person band?
Weirdly enough, I think noise. I think a lot of the good two-piece bands that I've really liked are like louder than you'd think they would be. Like the Pack AD, great two-person band. Like if you were to just hear it, you'd think that's a full band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me with other bands, other two-person bands, I think I like Japan Droids, who are really loud. There's not a lot of space to breathe, and they make a little bit more noise than they have to. So with that said, as a two-person band making a lot of noise, what stands out to you about the White Stripes?
I think it's their... Again, I mean, this isn't to say this disparagingly, because I know a lot of people say this is a pro, but they're like sloppiness.
Mm-hmm.
Especially early on, they were very like rough around the edges, again, in a good way, like in the way that you'd want them to be.
Yeah.
And that created their unique sound, I think.
The band, what's really unique is covering this band a little more intently, and you start looking, at those early shows, those early albums. It really feels like both Jack and Meg are not necessarily learning their instruments, but more like perfecting their craft. Like, when they started in 97, 98, like Jack White was not always the guitarist that he is now. There is,
Of course, yeah.
and the whole point of this band was for Meg to sound like a kid playing drums for the first time. It was that kind of chaotic sloppiness that worked for the type of music they wanted to play. But
Of course, yeah.
as they went on, like, they got tight, they got proficient, and a lot of confidence, really worked in their favor, because for the 10 years they were a band, they got their abilities and their kind of approach to the instruments just vastly changed, and the sloppiness was still there, but it was very unique.
Yeah, there's a ton of bands you can kind of follow that progression of, like, they start of, like, Arkells is a good example.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Jackson Square is like, and again, not to say this disparagingly, it's super sloppy, it's rough, it's raw, it's like these guys just walked out of their garage and here's an album.
Yeah.
And then, you flash forward to today, Blink Once, Blink Twice, it's super slick, super production, but you can still tell it's like Arkells under the hood. And I think I feel like that was a little bit the same with White Stripes. Again, obviously, I'm not anywhere near a connoisseur as you, but
you're hitting the nail on the head. And the counter argument, of course, being rock and roll is supposed to be raw and is supposed to be a little sloppy. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, for sure.
The song this week is an obscure one. So for maybe a more pedestrian, kind of casual White Stripes fan, this was a unique one to put in your lap. But it is a cover of a band called Blanche or Blanche. How would you pronounce that?
I would say it Blanche.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like the Golden Girls in me coming out.
This is a band based out of Detroit. Kirk, you're well versed in your musical trends. When did the whole gothic alternative country really peak?
Boy, when did it peak?
Yeah.
Ooh. I would probably say it depends on what you want to say is gothic, because there was definitely that like stomp clap hey that peaked in the mid-aughts. But I wouldn't call it that gothic really.
More alternative, I'd say.
Yeah. But I think the gothic was kind of like going along parallel with that, if a little bit more under the radar.
Yeah. And this band Blanche, based out of Detroit, I feel like was a bit ahead of their time. I took a listen to their first album, which in 2004 has a very clever name. If We Can't Trust the Doctors. In our modern era, maybe you got to kind of look at it twice and go, okay, if it's an if.
There's an if there with an ellipses at the end. I looked up the album too, and I had that exact same reaction. I'm like, ooh, okay. I don't want to look into where these guys are at now.
They had a very unique look. They had kind of they were playing older instruments. They had an older their onstage apparel was kind of not classical, but more vintage and retro. And
was there suspenders involved?
These guys are wearing suspenders.
Yeah.
And this is the Detroit scene. When the White Stripes kind of really hit it off around this time, a lot of people in Detroit in that hipster scene, which is what it was, kind of were not happy with the success, and were not happy that they weren't as receptive as you think you would be when your peers kind of succeed. So while there were a handful that didn't like that, the people in this band Blanche were a little more closer tied to the White Stripes. Dan John Miller, who sings and plays guitar, he was in two former bands with Jack White prior to the White Stripes, a band called Goober and the Peas, and then Two-Star Tabernacle. And another member, little Jack Lawrence, is in Blanche, who's also in the Greenhorns and the Raconteurs. So a little bit incestuous scene.
Sure, yeah.
Everybody playing on everything.
Yeah. I mean, you get that in every I mean, look at the Vancouver music scene. Our pal Mike Noble's been in what, 18 bands? Like,
Yeah, it's oh, you can play well. Oh, we're kind of looking to share a similar story. Well, just hop on this one too.
yeah, exactly.
So I sent you 3 versions of this song because
Mhm.
while it was released in 2004, it'd been hanging around for a long time. There was the Two-Star Tabernacle version, which is from about 97, 98, and then the Blanche's version from 2004, and this one. So this song was kind of in the ether before it was like officially released on the Blanche album. Out of the 3 versions that you listen to, is there a natural progression and evolution of the song, or did one stand out to you that was superior?
I think there was definitely an evolution. The first one, I listened to the Two-Star Tabernacle version just once,
Yeah.
and it was definitely a lot more raw. I think it even said in the YouTube thing that you sent me, it was like the demos, right?
Mm-hmm.
It definitely sounded like a demo, and again, that's not casting dispersions or anything. It's just like it sounded like a demo. We can get into this when we talk about the lyrics and stuff, but the Blanche version definitely sounded more sinister.
Yeah.
And the White Stripes one was a little bit more, again, I don't want to say slick, but it was a little more like the next step of that, I think.
They're telling like in the Two-Star Tabernacle version, it kind of sounds like it has a bit of swagger. He's like, this is how I think
Yeah.
and this is how I feel, and like deal with it almost. And in the Blanche version, like you hit the nail on the head, it's sinister. Like I've got
Yeah.
these intrusive thoughts, and who's to say how I act on them? While I find Jack White takes almost like a whimsical approach. Like
Yeah.
he's infatuated with an idea or someone, and he's just thinking like, what could be.
Yeah. And it was like, again, I listened to the song when you sent it to me, and I listened to it a couple of times before I looked into the lyric, like
Mhm.
read the lyrics along with it, or like really listened to the lyrics. And the White Stripes one was definitely like, yeah, I can see this, and like, grooving along.
Yeah.
And then you look into the lyrics, and it's like, oh no, okay, this is a little darker, more sinister than it might initially present.
Yeah.
And then you listen to the Blanche one, and it's like, oh no, this totally fits with that like sinister, almost like obsessiveness.
Yeah. It's in the,
borderline stocky, maybe.
yeah, I was gonna say you're in the shadows a bit.
Yeah.
In regards to the lyrics, I find this song, the overall like theme of this song is delusion.
Yeah.
You can be delusional for good reasons, you can be delusional for selfish reasons, or you could be delusional for some maybe uncomfortable reasons. The lyrics are strange. They aren't, I think, like the benchmark for this song, like the song hasn't aged well, like that type of chart. It's like, is it Baby It's Cold Outside?
Yeah.
So
It's definitely not. It definitely doesn't reach that peak. It's that kind of. I was making notes about this, and I kind of like said it's that like mid-aughts rom-com.
yeah,
The kind of like How I Met Your Mother's of it all, or like the stuff like that, where it's like, oh, if somebody says no, you just persist.
yes, it's like you're saying no, and I hear you saying no, but have you heard yourself saying yes? I'm not
Exactly, yeah.
going to put box you into a corner or anything, but reconsider, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a couple of lyrics I really like in this song early on. Like I love in just casual conversation, just dropping a delusional. Who's to say?
Exactly.
Ryan,
yeah.
are you drunk? Who's to say?
Hey.
But when you're going through these lyrics with your fine tooth comb and your 2025 lens, Like, what stands out to you?
The one that really caught my ear, again, like the third or fourth time I listened, when it really clicked what the song was about, was the just because my schedule seems to shadow you. Because it's such a good line, but then you like it's the same as the Franz Ferdinand line from The Dark of the Matinee, where it's time every journey to run into you accidentally.
Yeah.
And it's that same, like, again, borderline stalkery, maybe, like, oh, if you tell somebody like, oh yeah, I followed your schedule and I'm following you around to run into you, like, that's not great.
I think you can do it once, and you can do it as I really want to get to know this person better. They work in this neighborhood. Maybe, I don't know, if I just hang out and we bump into each other, maybe it'll lead to something. It's when you've done this 7 or 8 times, or maybe twice, that it becomes a little red flaggy.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can interpret this song in a few ways. Like, you can, the way the White Stripes perform it, I interpret it as Jack White is having a conversation with himself. Who's to say if I'm unhappy? Because I don't really smile. Who's to say that I'm obsessed with the previous versions make it seem like the narrator is almost speaking to the subject, the individual,
exactly,
and like on the defensive a bit.
Yeah, and there's also the whole last verse. I think it's the last verse.
Yeah.
It's who's to say I'm sorry, I'm reading off the lyrics here. Who's to say in time I won't learn to relax? You'd forget about my clammy hands and nervous laugh. Who's to say the way you... Oh, this is the other one.
Yeah.
Who's to say the way you look at him is truly love? Maybe they should realize I fit you like a glove.
Incel. I'm sorry, that is an incel lyric. That is
exactly. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, they only date jerks. If only they dated a nice guy like me.
There is definitely unrequited love songs from the past you can bring to the present, and they still work, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm gonna say there are some that, like, it's an unrequited love song. There's tons of unrequited love songs. They're not all creepy.
Yeah.
But once you bring in that you have a partner, but he's not right or I'm gonna say he's not right for you, it should be me.
Yeah, you could assume the pronouns and the genders in this scenario.
Exactly. Yeah. We were dancing around it, but let's be honest.
This is a dude looking to tell a woman that their partner is not right for them, and if you just gave the nice guy a chance, it'd go a lot smoother. I'd stop running into you on the street at Starbucks.
Yeah.
But and that's what I kind of like about this song. It takes on a few, like, there's, each song is saying the same thing, but they're telling a completely different story. And I find the lyrics and kind of the structure of the song quite versatile.
Yeah, I can see that. And I don't know if you looked into it and did the research, or if this was just complete happenstance, but I love cover songs.
Okay.
So this was a perfect song. As soon as you said it was a cover, I'm like, that's almost a deep cut cover is better for me than like more mainstream White Stripes song.
Yeah.
Just for my like baseline fandom of them. But and part of the reason I love cover songs is every different version, it can completely change the meaning of the song. Like, look at the most popular cover, Johnny Cash's Hurt. Completely changes the meaning of Reznor's original. Yeah. And even Trent Reznor himself said, like, oh, this isn't my song anymore, it's Johnny's. And a good cover song can like completely change the meaning of the song. And I don't think the White Stripes completely changed the meaning, but I think they did enough that it's like, oh, this song is 1 or 2 steps less creepy than the Blanche one.
and it's true. And the White Stripes are known for a handful of things. The way they look, the way they dress, the way they play, but they are known for their cover songs. They are known for taking not necessarily a big popular song. I'm going to say more of a powerful song. They're taking a song, they take songs with a lot of weight behind it and they turn it into something very special and very unique. And the gold standard for them is Jolene, their cover of the Dolly Parton song, especially their live one. And another one is the B-side, or the A-side to the single, which was I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself, which there's a couple versions. Burt Bacharach and Dusty Springfield did that, and they're kind of talking about being a little lost after a breakup. But the White Stripes take it and just scream and bellow from a place of hopelessness. So they take a song and they're already putting a spin on it because they're a 2-person stripped down garage rock outfit, but they do a lot more than that. And they just kind of, they look to tell a different story. You have a narrator and a subject, but there's another way to say these words. And it is one of their absolute best features as a band.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, as much as I love cover songs, when a band puts out a cover that's just like a note for note cover of the original, it's like, why did you do this? What is the point of this?
There's some fantastic, it's just, we need to pad the album or let's get lazy and you don't put anything on it. It's just, it becomes complete. It just makes you want to listen to the original. It doesn't make you want to listen to the cover.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I'll ask you this, Kirk, because it's pretty clear that Dan John Miller of Blanche wrote this song, but in the Two-Star Tabernacle version, you can hear Jack performing on it. How much of a cover is this really when the band that it took shape in featured Jack White?
Yeah, that's tough to say because there's definitely been I've definitely thought of that before with other bands because like somebody in they'll take a song from their solo project and port it over to the band or vice versa or something like that. And it's almost actually one of the questions I had for you in this was why did they cover this song? But we've no pun intended covered that in that it was his song to begin with, or not solely his song to begin with, but he had a hand in it. And I think that's an interesting variation on the cover because it is a completely different take, but it is still his song to a degree.
I would say, yeah. And, he's not credited for anything for the Blanche release. But what's really interesting about the band they had together, Two-Star Tabernacle, is there is a lot of Blanche songs and there's a lot of White Stripes songs that were, Hotel Yorba, a lot of songs off White Blood Cells were actually hanging around 3 years before they were recorded for that album, and they were cobbled together in this band Two-Star Tabernacle, and didn't seem all that different. Like these are pretty powerful but simple songs that you don't really, their shape is not that. You're not going to not recognize it. So I kind of get the sense that it's a bit of a, the easiest comparable is it's a John and Paul thing. It's your standard Beatles thing where, a John song, it's Beatles, but there's clear John and there's clear Paul songs. I think that in Two-Star Tabernacle, you got Dan songs and you got Jack songs, and they are different enough that you can, I would say absolutely that it is a cover. Because this is not a Jack White song. It's not the shape or it's not the form of a song that he would write.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the John Paul thing because there's so many bands that have like kind of co-lead singers where you can tell this is this person's song, this is this person's song, and it goes all the way down to like the top of that is the Beatles, obviously, but then you could even say that about the Bare Naked Ladies. To go local, you could say that about Said the Whale. You could say that about and I think if to use the Said the Whale for an example, if Ben spun off and did a solo album and covered some of Tyler's songs, that would feel weird to me almost because they both write songs from such a personal place and then bring them together.
Absolutely. And it would just, yeah, it could feel weird, or if there is a, you know, if they're looking to tell a different story, tell the same story differently, you could have
Mhm.
a who's to say moment, and
Exactly. Yeah.
that's,
Yeah. Not to say that it wouldn't work out
but it would
if
be
they did
strange
that,
based on
but
on
yeah,
how personal these songs are.
yeah. And I
Jack,
guess it also. Sorry. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say Jack is anything but an autobiographical writer. You know,
Sure. Yeah.
these are stories that are set to music. They aren't. This is the struggles I have. So probably be a lot easier for a scenario like that with him than, you know, songwriters that are crafting incredibly personal lyrics.
hmm And it also could just be because Two-Star Tabernacle was like that. They didn't. Did that band really like hit anything, or did they just kind of do some demos and then split off into the two other bands?
What happened at the time? The White Stripes formed in '97, and um, Jack was in a hand like, you know, Jack was, maybe he is Detroit's Mike Noble. He was in a ton of local bands. He
You
was
have
in
to clip that for Mike.
he was always around. You know, he was in, off the top of my head, he was in Goober and the Peas. He was in Two-Star Tabernacle. He was in The Go. He had a band with his upholsterer. He was an upholstery apprentice. He had a band called The Upholsterers with Brian Muldoon. So he was always there. And then
Sure.
he was the kind of the whole reason, like the reason the White Stripes became a band, one was the sound was so unique of him and Meg jamming together, but also he really loved the blues, and he was afraid to, he not afraid, he didn't want to be like a blues bar band, the old blues hammer
Of course.
direction.
Yeah.
So he thought, if we're weird enough and unique enough, we can get away with playing the music we like. And, you know, you look at quotes from back then, and this is a band that never intended to be famous. You know, I was listening to an interview that Jack did in 2004 where he plays Who's to Say on BBC with John Peel. And he was outlining, basically saying, it'd be great if the White Stripes could allow us to quit our day jobs. And John Peel's like, you mean like be an A-list bar band? And he's like, absolutely. That's all they wanted to do. And
hmm
then they had to go and get famous. And here we are talking about them 20 years later.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's interesting about this song is in the coming weeks on this show, we're talking about some covers. And there was an era where the White Stripes were taking songs that had just recently came out and covered them. You know, kind of before that, they were in the public realm to get an identity of what people think about them. But this song, you know, it was it was Two-Star Tabernacles in the '90s. And Blanche didn't put their album out until 2004, and this was released as a B-side for I Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself, and as the one of the bonus tracks for the Japanese version of Elephant in like 2003. So they are technically
Oh,
covering a song that had not been released yet.
that's interesting. That also puts a different spin on the whole "is it a cover" question.
Yeah. And I don't know how, you know, I'll have to reach out to Ben Blackwell, the White Stripes historian, because based on what we know available, you know, on Discogs or Wikipedia, it's like I don't know when this song, if and when it was released before this album, but you know, the "is this a cover" argument gains traction and momentum with they are covering a song that had not been released yet.
Yeah. And this was just like a B-sides song, right? Like it didn't. Obviously, you know it and love it for your White Stripes fandom. But
Yeah.
is this like a deep cut favorite among the fandom, or is it just kind of like a song that's out there?
It's a great question because this song really stuck with me. Like it's a one of, you know, it's, you know, I know how to play it on guitar. It's the same chords as Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground. Um, I don't know the impact of this song, its legacy, its Little Room,
Mhm.
Big Impact, because if you were following the band at the time, when they were blowing up, this comes out on their second single for Elephant. So, you know, if you're buying a CD single, if you're one of those weirdos in the
Mhm.
mid 2000s, or you're really, I was looking to hear as much as possible about this band. This is like
Of course, yeah.
pre-torrents, post, LimeWire. So you kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
it was, there's no YouTube. It's hard to trust the internet without, wrecking your family's computer.
Yeah, or downloading something and it's mislabeled as the White Stripes and it's some other band
Yeah.
trying to get their music out there, or somebody just didn't know.
So if you like Seven Nation Army and you want to hear more songs, you might have sought this out. It was the time to do it.
Yeah.
But
I do remember there was that like 3 or 4 year span, maybe it was longer than that,
Yeah.
but there was that span of time where like the Japanese import was huge.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, the Japanese version always had bonus songs on it. And a lot of times they were like this, they were B-sides or covers or rarities. And I just remember this period of time where everyone was trying to get the Japanese import of whatever album.
Do you know why that was the case?
Don't think I do.
Because of the cost, or whatever the costs related to importing music to Japan made CDs, like especially North American CDs, so much more expensive. So they had to like sweeten the deal.
Right.
By
Just pack as much in as they could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so whatever the B-sides are, you tack on to the edge of the album, and that's what you had to do. Like there was it was a thought out and necessary decision that like we need to make this a little more worth its value kind of thing. So Jack and Meg put the 2 bonus tracks for the Japanese version were the B-sides for I Just Don't Know What to Do With Myself, which was good, Who's to Say, and then the B-side to Seven Nation Army, which is a Brendan Benson cover called Who's to Say. Sorry, so that's called Good to Me.
Oh, that would be an interesting thing to do. Just take like a bunch of songs with the same name and then cover them all.
I quite like it. I think that the well would dry up pretty quick, but the song to quality.
Years ago, I remember putting this out on, I don't know, Facebook or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's like and it was a time when like, I guess you could still do this with Spotify, but like go into your music library, go into like everything,
Yeah.
sort by name, and look at how many songs you have that are just titled Home.
Oh.
I think at the time I had over a dozen just called Home.
Oh.
So if you get something like that, you could easily do like an album of like home songs or something like that.
There'd be a lot of stomp and clap on that one.
Oh, for sure. And that's not even talking about like home something, like homesick or something like that.
Yeah.
It was just home.
It's like I always think about what the laziest like rock lyric is, and I think it, or the laziest part of lyrics. I think it comes down to set me free. Everything rhymes with it, and you can just take it 1,000 different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. Oh, that's a good thought experiment too. Like the late, and aside from just like the yeahs and woes, like what is the laziest lyric you can think of? Ooh.
Rhyming night with all right.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh man. So this song, it was recorded during the Elephant Sessions, which was at Toe Rag Studios in London, England, in I don't know if it's the neighborhood or the region of Hackney, in 2002. And they sat on this music for a while, Kirk. They recorded the album in 2002, but they couldn't release it until April of 2003 because White Blood Cells was too popular. That
makes sense. Yeah.
They kept selling. They kept, the demands were, I want to say that like the Fell in Love with the Girl music video, probably came out right around the time that they were recording this album, which, has Seven Nation Army on it and Hardest Button to Button. So they were They were churning out a lot of hits, you could say.
Yeah, I definitely remember in that time period, it was like every few months was a new White Stripe single, and they were all bangers.
Mhm.
Like it's rare that you get that many from an album, and that many not just that many like good singles, but that many hit singles.
Yeah, and also singles, but also we've talked about this on the A side of this. For I just don't know what to do with myself. They were putting out as good as the songs were. The videos were that much more memorable.
Of course, yeah.
Like you had Fell in Love with a Girl, you had Seven Nation Army, then you had
Yeah.
Hardest Button to Button. Um, uh, I talked about this with Jason Manning about I just don't know what to do with myself, where they had a very strange music video, which was just Kate Moss pole dancing in black and white, and it was directed by Sofia Coppola.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I kind of said to him, like, I'm kind of glad that video didn't hit, because no knock to OK Go, but you don't want to be the fun music video band.
Yeah, exactly. Like they already had the Michel Gondry one. They already have the Lego. Those were two different ones, right? Yeah,
Michel
the
Gondry
Michel
did
Gondry
two
one
videos.
and the Lego one. Oh, did he do both of those?
Yeah, he did Hardest Button to Button, and he did
Hardest Button to Button was the one with like the moving images, right?
Yeah, with all the amps and guitars.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he did the Lego one as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm also going back into my Michel Gondry knowledge from the early aughts.
Do you have the collective works of Michel Gondry DVD?
I don't. I have a bunch of his other movies on DVD, but I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I never got the collective works, but I like all his videos are great.
Yeah, he I went through a time phase where if the White Stripes were featured or in it or on the cover, I bought it. So I have
Of
this
course,
like
yeah.
I have this like I have the double DVD of every video he did and all of the insight into it, and it's just he had a huge impact on so much of what the White Stripes were able to accomplish, and I think that that's something, you know, as Jack gets more and more celebrated as a songwriter and the White Stripes as a band, you kind of forget about. And as music videos become so much less important and people are so much less exposed to it, the flowers for the videos and that they did are slowly not getting the flowers they deserve, I think.
Sure, yeah, and especially in that time, the early aughts, that was like it wasn't peak music video time, but it was definitely like in the tail end of music video time, where, like you said, like the only reason people that sounds mean. I was going to say the only reason people like OK Go is the videos. That's obviously not true.
Hey, we don't. The only band we slag on the show is the Black Keys, Kirk.
No, okay, I'll join you on that one. But no, I didn't even mean that as a slag on OK Go.
Yeah.
But like that's why they're popular.
Unfortunately,
because they had those great videos. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a fine band, but they had and then they kept having to do it, and it kept being, what's the video for this song going to look like? What's it going to be?
Yeah, I think they got stuck in that trap, and like you said, it's probably a good thing that White Stripes didn't.
Yeah,
because then you get stuck in that kind of like, I don't want to say gimmick band trap, but it's kind of a gimmick band. Like, oh, okay, what are we going to do with this song or this video? Yeah, like you said,
backed into a corner. And while the White Stripes are a total gimmick band, they're a gimmick band for like kind of the right reasons. You know, they back themselves into a corner to get out of that corner creatively.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're a gimmick band. I would say they're a band with a gimmick. And to me, those are two completely different things.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's the clip right there. That's going on the sizzle reel.
Perfect.
But you asked, is this like a big song? I don't have, or an important song in the legacy of the White Stripes. I do not,
or even just in the fandom. Yeah.
I really think that they have a list of covers that got overlooked because of the bigger covers they did.
Sure.
And if you're an artist and you only have so much time in a show, White Stripes concerts are only 90 minutes. You've already got some bigger covers, and some of your biggest songs are already covers. So I think just it's the classic case of a good artist. It's just they've got too many good songs. They can't play them all. but it is it was a unique song at a unique time when they're getting popular, because they only played this song live once, which I find odd. I don't have any insight to it. Like, my mind was kind of going a few places, like in our episode about Girl You Have No Faith in Medicine with Brian Quimby. Meg actually refused to record it for White Blood Cells because she thought the lyrics were problematic. It was a song about a man being skeptical of his partner's choice in medicine, or like tough it out kind of thing. So I was thinking, like, maybe they didn't like it because Meg didn't like the creepy lyrics, but they recorded the song with not creepy but curious lyrics.
Sure.
So I really don't know why it was only performed live by the band once.
I wonder, because I did see that little question in your notes, not to break kayfabe, but I was wondering that as well, and I don't know if this would be it based on, you said they had a whole bunch of kind of like contemporary covers.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it's because it was like not just a contemporary cover, but a contemporary cover of a band that he's like, assuming he's still friends with.
Yeah.
So maybe he didn't want to like cannibalize the song or like take the song from them.
Yeah. It's a good way of looking at it. It's an interesting way of looking at it, because they performed it once, and that was in August 2004, which I believe is around the time that the Blanche album came out, and this was their lead. This was, I believe, the lead single, or their big song that got.
Oh yeah, then I can definitely, pure speculation, I can definitely see that being a reason why they might have decided not to.
One final thing about the music itself. It's the White Stripes version. Like, this is like, this comes up a lot in this podcast, that the band is good with using space, letting songs breathe, letting there be air. This song has 3 very clear and audible overdubs. You can hear an acoustic guitar picking, you can hear an electric guitar playing a little more aggressively, and you can hear piano playing along as well with Meg's drumming and the vocals. With a band all about kind of minimalism and rawness, does the fact that it's clearly, overdub on top of overdub on overdub take away from the performance's authenticity, its rawness? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't like super think about that while I was listening to it. But I can also see that as being a reason why they didn't play it live. But yeah, I don't know if it takes away from the authenticity. I did put in my notes before this, I really liked how the song kind of ebbed and flowed.
Yeah.
And like you said, created a lot of space. I think there was a minute, the first time I listened, to a point about 3 minutes in where I thought it was over, and then it like just picked right back up.
Yeah, it's a long it's a longer song than you kind of think. You kind of like, oh, this is a 4.5 minute song.
Yeah, and again, with my like most of my White Stripes fandom and knowledge is just their singles, which I think are mostly fairly shorter songs, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to hear a bit of a longer one from them, especially in that era, I think that's why I just kind of assumed it was ending at the 3 minute point. But yeah, I don't know if that takes away from the authenticity, to go back to your original point, unless you're like, maybe once you're like dive into it and start listening to it more, and you do pick up on that, like, oh, it's this.
Yeah.
It is 3 layers of obviously overdubbing and stuff like that. Maybe once you do like think of it more, but I think for like the first initial listen, it didn't really clock for me.
Yeah. And I'm gonna lie, I'm not gonna lie, I've listened to this song for a long time in the last 20 years, and it's not until you actually like, if you're really, really listening and looking and listening sonically for like specifics, you will hear it. But if you, it's still despite having those overdubs, it's still a very quiet song when it needs to be quiet, and then loud song when it needs to be loud. So I think back to your original point of what makes a good 2-person band, and it's making a lot of noise. And this song, if this song, if they were wanting this song to be something it wasn't, I would think that those overdubs and would create a larger, give the song a greater depth than it has. But it doesn't need it, and it all kind of stays within the lane of the White Stripes.
Sure, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Well, it was only performed one time. There wasn't a music video for it, and it is a cover that might not be a cover, but probably is a cover. Kirk, you got one of these stranger White Stripes songs to discuss this week. When you go back and approach, I like to ask, you listened to the song before we had this conversation. If you were to put it on again, how would you respond to it differently, or would you?
I think I would listen more for like you said, the overdubs and stuff like that. One thing, I mean, despite the fact that I do a music blog and have for like, oh God, how many years now? I'm so not a like technical person for music. Like I almost never talk about key changes or like chord progression or stuff like that. For me, music is more about the emotions that it evokes, the vibes, the feelings, that 100%. Sort of thing. So I think going back and not to say that I don't listen to something with a critical ear or like listen for stuff like overdubbing or stuff like that, but I think going back and listening to it now, I would listen more for that and to see if that has any effect on it. I don't know if it would. I think I would still just be like, yeah, this is about the same as I thought. I don't think it would have a negative effect on the song for me.
What about having lyrically? Compared to what you know about the other versions and what we've discussed.
Yeah. I think because I think if I hadn't clocked those lyrics and then we started discussing it and I were like, oh yeah, had that like realization in real time on the pod, that would definitely give me a different thing in the song. But I think because I had like kind of clocked that after a few listens, I think you did give me a little more appreciation for their version of it being lighter than Blanche's. Because like I said, the first couple times I listened to it, I didn't not listen to the lyrics, but I didn't like internalize them, conceptualize them. And then it was when I was like really listening and reading along with the lyrics, I was like, oh. Yeah. And then, like I said, Blanche's song is definitely more sinister in its vibes and its feel. And yeah, I think you're right. The White Stripes one is a little bit more whimsical, maybe, like more of a flight of fancy than a "I'm coming for you."
A little less incel-y.
Yeah, exactly.
You and I approach music very similarly because I've always loved this song and I've never like. I don't know. I hear the first few lyrics as a jumping off point, and then I'm swimming. I'm not like, looking at it from above. So yeah. Diving into the lyrics, there's another swimming pun. Really, really kind of changed my perspective of it. Wrapping up, we're in the midst of moving, and so I have very little stuff that is for my background. So I only kept the White Stripes complete lyrics, and this is a visual metaphor because I put the lyrics book on the shelf because it's not their lyrics, it's somebody else's. Didn't need it. Hey. Okay, that was Kirk. I'm Ryan, and that was Kirk. Kirk and Ryan. A couple of wrestling fans. I really love kind of diving into these lesser known songs that don't get all the accolades or the spotlights or the attention. Feel free. No, I encourage you to go check out 3 a.m. Revelations. He does a great job covering music in our country and most importantly in our city. Next week, I'm not going to lie, it's another cover. That's all I'll tell you. I know what the song is. You don't. Once again, go to buymeacoffee.com/hardestpod2pod. The cast of characters I'm about to name do not come cheap, folks, because the Hardest Podcast to Podcast is hosted and produced by Ryan Schaap. Artwork by Catlin Likely. Amanda Schultz is our assistant editorial producer. And Mike Noble is our Gato.